Good Thursday evening, one and all. Welcome, of course, to Thursday Night Geeks, the live stream from Trek Geeks, presented by FanSets. And of course, I am Bill Smith, alongside noted naturalist and lion tamer Dan Davidson, for yet another week of great Star Trek discussion. Dan, good to see you, buddy. I've missed you.
Good to see you too, man. Missed you as always. Glad to be back here to talk some strange new worlds, have some fun, have some laughs, talk about FanSets and all that great stuff. I was going to do a really over-the-top impersonation of William Shatner as Captain Kirk for the whole episode. I'm not going to do that. But I was thinking about it.
Maybe you were just channeling Paul Wesley.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an interesting episode, and then we'll get to more of it later.
It is. I don't want to spoil it. No pun intended. We're not there yet, but I kind of have warmed up to it a little bit, but in some ways I've soured on it a little more. So I'd like to think of it as, as a Libra, the balance scales are sort of still balanced. They're just weighed down a lot more as they were.
Yes.
Obviously, I owe apologies to the audience, some confusion in the show notes for tonight. So I'm going to confess to letting ChatGPT write my show notes for this episode. Hey, it takes a lot to produce this thing. And if I can say, give me a 3 to 4 paragraph, description of what's going on, I said, but do not include any spoilers. And it took it to mean we're not going to talk spoilers in the podcast. In fact, we are going to talk spoilers at the appropriate time, but
yes.
But rest assured, I won't make that mistake ever again. So indeed, we will be spoiler-tastic, as Dan says. And of course, let's say hello to the gallery, Dan.
Hey,
Willow's
gallery.
in the house.
Hey, gal.
You're an idiot. You really are. You really are. Brad, of course, is here, as is Ross. Good evening, Helen. Good to have you here. And of course, Kalia is here.
Yeah. Wow.
Hopefully many more to join us. And of course, if you're watching this live with us, thank you so very much. And of course, Willow is giving Garcia more love. Really don't encourage Penelope. It just emboldens him and he gets all high and mighty. He's smirking in the green room right now. I can see his beady little eyes peeking out over his monitor. But hello, Garcia. Yes, we are eternally grateful for Garcia to keeping us on time and on path as things were, especially with real-time corrections, since that happens just about once or twice a show these days.
Every once in a while it happens. We're not perfect. You're more perfect than I am.
I don't know about that.
Perfecter? Is that a word?
No.
Not at all. That means I'll use it.
Yeah, it is. Dan, let's before we kick things off, as we are normally want to do, I want to ask you what you're drinking.
I'm going simple tonight. I just went with some peanut butter whiskey. The smoke is gone, but I smoked it before I started drinking it. I did some oak smoke. No rhyme intended, but that's what it is. Gives it a nice, good flavor. And a little screwball never hurt anybody, right? So cheers, buddy. What are you drinking?
I am actually drinking a Prohibition era cocktail called a Bee's Knees.
Bee's Knees.
So you remember recently I sent you some Freeland bourbon, which you decided you really like.
Yep.
The Freeland Distillery, again, all owned and run and operated by women. makes a gin that comes in this gorgeous bottle. It's very similarly shaped to the bourbon bottle,
Yeah.
but it's almost kind of opalescent in a sense. That's a
Oh,
word you
cool.
can look up. Um,
I
but the
don't
gin
know
is
what that means.
amazing. And so my wife the other night made bee's knees, which is 2 ounces of gin, an ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and a half an ounce of honey syrup, which is essentially honey and hot water mixed.
Mhm.
There's a small farm near us here in North Carolina where we got the raw honey from. It's fantastic. It makes a great cocktail. You squeeze a little bit of lemon peel in after you shake it up for about 30 seconds, and you enjoy. So cheers to you and cheers to everyone in attendance, Dan.
Yeah, cheers, man. I love the glass too. I love the stemless martini glasses. That's a real
Thank you.
nice one. I like the color on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Nice. Yeah, it's good.
So
Good
if
drinking
you
stuff.
are watching us live, again, thank you so much. We appreciate everybody being here. If you're watching us not live, thanks for joining us. We're excited. Please like, please subscribe, please tell all your friends about Thursday Night Geeks, and send us some love in the comments, or rate and subscribe the channel. That would be super, super helpful.
Absolutely.
Um, Tonight, Dan, we're going to talk about an episode that you and I initially had a lot of fear about, I
Yeah.
think, when it was announced at the beginning of the season. What do we have on tap?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the latest. Well, not the latest. Well, the latest for in order of we're doing it here on the show. We're going to be talking about episode number 4 of season 3's Strange New Worlds. We're going to be talking A Space Adventure Hour. First aired on July 31st, just a few weeks ago. It was written by Dana Horgan and Catherine Lynn, and directed by some guy named Jonathan Frakes. I'm not really sure who that is. I haven't really heard of him before, but yeah. So there we go.
Dan, not only do we have Kaylee in the house, Jay is also in the house. So this makes me wonder, are they at opposite ends of the same sofa?
Exactly.
Are they in opposite rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Who let Jay have laptop time?
Maybe he's on his phone.
Maybe I'm surprised it wasn't taken away, quite honestly. You've met Jay.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And all seriousness, directed by the amazingly talented Jonathan Frakes. We love Jonathan. Everything he does pretty much turns to gold. And it's interesting. We had some trepidation, like you mentioned, before watching this episode, because before the episode came out, before the season even started, Frakes was dropping some hints. And he said that this was the best episode of television he's ever directed. So I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to be like the biggest television experience we've ever seen. I think he meant it's the best directing job that he has ever been a part of in all of the things that he has done, because it's a good episode. It certainly wasn't the best episode that I've ever seen of anything. I'm sure Jonathan appreciates his own work as we certainly do, but it was still good. But I think I misunderstood his initial quote.
Maybe you did and maybe you didn't, though. I mean, it could be the best in his mind for a variety of different reasons. Hey, Mumfrey is actually watching the show.
Wow.
Hey, Chris.
Where's my coffee?
He's still standing in line at
Exactly.
Starbucks in Vegas. For tonight, we want you all to ponder a question. Of course, as we do this live, the show is actually several episodes ahead. Tonight, they aired episode 9 of this season, so the penultimate episode in season 3, called Terrarium. A fantastic episode if you haven't seen it. But that means next week for Star Trek Strange New Worlds is the season finale. These 10-week seasons fly by. So, we want to know, do you think that the season finale next week will be a cliffhanger? We're going to talk more about this later. Whether or not we think this may have backfired a little bit this season with the long wait, but start thinking about it, because we'll ask you for your opinions later. Do you think that next week we're going to have to wait however long until season 4? So
I hope not.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's reset the table. We'll get ready to sound spoiler alert, and then we'll come back and start talking about A Space Adventure Hour. So you all stay there. Don't go anywhere. Dan, here we are, ready to talk A Space Adventure Hour. I love the name because it kind of makes me think of those choose your own adventure books of old.
Yes.
Love
those.
Even though that wasn't really what was going on, but Helen, of course, brings a great point to the table. I can't believe we're almost done with season 3, and then that look of sadness, surprised face. That's
Yes.
exactly what I was thinking earlier today as I watched Terrarium. So, without further ado, Dan, let's get into it and actually engage in spoilers. Garcia, if you would sound spoiler alert for all decks, please. Go ahead.
Spoiler alert.
Be so advised. The rest of the episode contains spoilers. If you haven't watched episode 4, catch up already. God, the hell are you doing?
Oh, okay.
That's really all I had.
Okay, because I was going to say, I haven't had a chance to watch anything after this episode.
Well,
so I got some work to do.
You are just an idiot.
I'm slow. It's all right.
So, Dan, here we are at the beginning of episode 4, the Jonathan Frakes directed Space Adventure Hour. And at the very beginning, we get
fantastic.
A kind of like a fantastic Galaxy Questifying of the Star Trek universe. And Galaxy Quest was immediately what leapt into my mind as we sort of look at these caricatures of Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you've got, Paul Wesley kind of doing, I'm torn. Is he doing his best Kirk, or is he doing his best William Shatner doing Kirk? And I think the answer to that really is kind of telegraphs my reaction one way or another. What do you think he's doing?
I think he's doing an overacting based on everybody saying that Shatner always overacts. When, to be quite honest, I don't always see it in Star Trek, his overacting. Yes, he's got his pauses here and there. But I think that this was just like off the charts. I don't want to, making fun's not the right word, but it was purposeful to make it really stand out. And I got to give it to him. I've seen a couple of interviews that he did before this episode aired. He really looked like he had a blast doing it. I think that it was a little too much at times, but this opening sequence, which we're just talking about, absolutely fantastic. I did not get Galaxy Quest vibes once during this entire episode. I got Captain Proton, and I got original series comedy parody throughout this aspect of what was going on with the science fiction aspect of the holodeck or recreation room. But yeah, I thought it was great. But I will say one thing: out of the first scene was great. I love the corniness of the sets, the 60s style sets. But that uniform that Ortegas is wearing on that ship is just god awful. Maybe it's the hair. I'm not sure if it's the hair or the costume or both.
Yeah,
but Wesley's is fantastic. I think he's just a riot in this role.
The thing that gets me about the Wesley characterization of his commander or captain or whatever he is that it really, for me, does border on caricature. I think it is too over the top. It almost, and I know this is not what's intended, but to me, if I know Shatner doesn't watch Star Trek, okay, I'm not going to labor under any delusion, but if I'm Shatner and I happen to catch this, the first thought I would have is he making fun of me? And I know that that's not what Paul Wesley intends. I know he has a vast respect for William Shatner. The two of them have talked on several occasions, especially when he got the gig as Kirk.
Yeah.
But I do think that it sets the tone for something very different. These sets, they almost look not even 60s-ish to me, almost 50s-ish.
Yeah.
With the way they did the view screen, with the sort of forced perspective, and you see the curtain in one, in the background, and the person, being controlled by the wires or whatever. And I really liked the aesthetic of what they were trying to go for. And I love the fake opening credits. I'm not going to lie, because I love the TOS opening credits.
Yeah, they were brilliant. I was going to say, that's one of the things that was one of my favorite parts of this episode were those opening credits. I know that they've done it a couple of times with little different nuances here and there. They did a mirror universe during Enterprise at one point, and I think they did a different one last season on Strange New Worlds. But I thought this was great, and I'll tell you what, I've already talked to the boys at FanSets. They damn well better make a USS Adventure pin which we get to see in those opening credits. I hope that happens. I liked how they did that. It gives it an extra layer of fun for us as fans of this type of stuff to see that they can go in and, that's just throw the opening credits on and we'll just go from there. But no, they spent extra time, money, energy, and thought process to put that together. And I thought it went off really well.
Well, the budget clearly didn't go into the space adventure set.
That's true.
They could have picked that up from pieces of, a local high school production. They could have picked it up from Axonar, for Christ's sake.
It was actually pretty good looking, so probably not.
Unlike Axonar, this was actually made.
Yeah, that's true.
Did I say that out loud? What a jerk I was. It's hey now.
No, it's true that not you being a jerk. The other comment, that was true.
Well, I am a little bit of a jerk. I mean,
yeah.
And Mumfree, shut up. Don't say a word. I think the thing that I was really trepidatious of when it comes to this episode is the fact that we have a holodeck episode on Strange New Worlds. Now, the thing that really interested me was the way it was presented. Notice, at least when I watched the screener for this several weeks ago, it wasn't called a recreation deck, but it was pronounced the other way, a recreation deck.
Yeah.
Which I think makes more sense.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. It was I like that aspect, but I also like the aspect that they tied TAS into it because that's what it was originally called in that episode of the animated series. So I like how they did that. But yeah, it was interesting. I know that there's been a lot of talk out there, and we'll get into it in more detail yet. It's a holodeck episode on the original Enterprise. Okay, scratch your head, but they were able to pull it together in a way that I think worked. And they're also going to, spoiler alert, recommend that nothing happened yet with relation to having these installed on starships until they get all the kinks out. But oh my God, a holodeck gone wrong episode. Who would have thought?
And technically the first ever?
Yeah. First one goes wrong.
Okay. First one in canon?
Yeah.
And I don't even like saying it like that because technically it's not the first one in canon. And then there are those people who say, well, it's not canon. It can't be. Forget them. Forget them.
Forget who.
Yeah. So Lon gets the task of determining whether or not this is a viable concept. This is a choice I like. You would have thought that they would have selected Spock or number one, who can, she has a love of Gilbert and Sullivan. She loves to probably, do fun things, maybe engage in a little dress up and costuming. I could see number one going to a fandom convention somewhere on some planet for a space adventure hour. But they choose La'an. And I love that this allows us to see Lon without the security facade that we've seen for the first two seasons. They've slowly been peeling it away, here in season 3. And we get to see her have fun.
It's interesting that you say that too, Bill, because when I first saw that it was Lon who was chosen, I was like, huh? She's a security officer who's not going to allow anything to not be by the book, blah, blah, blah. Spock, I don't think would have been a good choice because he's going to be too logical. I would want somebody like Uhura, who's got a very open mind, who likes to have fun and have a good time and understands the benefit that this could bring. But with that being said, as the episode progressed, we got to see sides of Lon that we haven't seen before, and I really liked it. And oh my God, Christina Chong is phenomenal in this role. I love her so much, and I want to see more of her.
Her yeah. No, I get it. Her American accent was fantastic.
So great. Yes, yeah.
And she slipped in and out so flawlessly. I mean, at times I had to remember that she's English for crying out loud. But I love that they created a method by which to get the other regular cast members in there. Because there's just not enough storage for all that character info, or memory or whatever the heck it was. So you got Captain Pike, who's the image of the avatar of Captain Pike, who is T.K. Bellows, the show creator and producer of The Last Frontier. You get the star of the show, Maxwell Saint, who's the Paul Wesley character.
Mm-hmm.
Adelaide Shaw, who is crap.
I know you know. I know you know
Chapel.
it.
Chapel.
There you go.
Thank you.
I was going to say, which is also great that Jess gets to use her Australian accent in this.
Yeah.
It's kind of opposite of what we've seen before. So yeah.
You get Lee Woods, which is the Ortegas avatar, Sonny Lupino, the show's producer, which played by the number one avatar, which it has to be an outright call out to Lucille Ball.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially just when you look at the way the character was dressed and the
Yeah.
hairstyle. It screams Lucy.
Yeah.
Joni Gloss, who's the Uhura avatar, is a talent agent for 3 of the cast members of the show. And then, of course, Anthony McBow, who is Adelaide Shaw's, paramour, if you will. Mm-hmm. And Tony Hart, the head of the studio where The Last Frontier is filmed, is murdered, and everybody is, at Lee Wood's house, and all of a sudden it's a murder mystery. So automatically, La'an is dialed in because she loves this character, and the game is afoot, shall we say?
Oh, very nice.
Thank
a little
you.
elementary Dear Data, which got some callbacks to that while watching this episode. That's for sure.
That's probably one of my big criticisms, but more about that in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get to that afterwards too. Yeah, I loved what they were able to do with this. Now, I will say at first, I'm like, okay, so we're watching a Space Hour Adventure, which is a show on the holodeck, which is a 19 whatever murder mystery. I could get a little confusing. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I'm a little slow, so it could be a little confusing, but they were able to really work the angles well. I love the camera work that was done with this episode in certain scenes, with how they focused in on people close up or far away. I'll give credit to Frakes. His directing is phenomenal in everything he does, but he really knows how to make this type of genre episode, in terms of it being a murder mystery in the past, really work like the old style shows that we're used to seeing back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the little details I love the most about this episode. Ultimately, I have to say, I like the episode. I wasn't sure I would. I thought that I would have major problems with it. But I mean, I suspended my disbelief and I watched it. I just want to throw that out there.
Wish more people would do that.
Which I hear people can actually do.
It's not that hard.
And successfully, I might add.
Yeah.
But I may as well talk about it now, since we've already kind of teased it. My main problem with this episode is that, well, let me back up. So far in the first 3 episodes of the season that we've talked about, we've noticed that they've kind of borrowed or been inspired by other genre stuff, whether it's
other Star Trek stuff.
And other Star Trek.
Yep.
In this episode, the conceit is that they created a mystery fitting of La'an, whereas it's a complete cribbing of elementary Dear Data, when Geordi has the computer create a mystery worthy of Data in the Sherlock Holmes universe. I felt like when we got to that part of the episode, I was yeah, it did. I was let down. Because I felt that was just so obvious. If you're going to take an episode of TNG that is, pretty much universally loved by fans, enough to the point where they actually brought Moriarty back again in TNG and then again in Picard.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like you can steal the sort of impetus of that episode for the first holodeck adventure ever.
Yes. I agree 100%. When that was revealed, I said out loud, really? Elementary Dear Data? What is going on? However, with that being said, I do like how they did that aspect of the holodeck story that could defeat Data, and they made it. I didn't have any clue whatsoever until the reveal that it was a holodeck creation of Spock. That was the whole thing. That surprised me, and I liked how they did it, because I was like, okay, now what are they going to do? Are they going to they going to do? Are they going to copy more from the episode from TNG? And they didn't. So I did like how they did that, and I liked the reveal. This is a I like and dislike comment. I like how they did the reveal, but the way that they did it is she was noticing aspects of the holodeck Spock that were not her Spock, quote unquote,
Right.
real life Spock, which brings us to the whole Spock romance aspect again. And now, boy, did he get over Chapel fast, because they're making out at the end of this episode, and I'm damn jealous of Ethan Peck. I will tell you that.
Really? I don't see it. Hashtag Vulcan plot twist indeed.
Yeah.
You know, I want to phrase this carefully, because again, I don't want to seem like I'm being or looking for reasons to be critical.
Mhm.
But if the genesis of this episode was that, they had to use existing patterns that they had, because they just couldn't create characters from scratch.
Yeah.
Why would you create a computer generated Spock from scratch? It doesn't know Spock's mannerisms. That would have to be programmed in.
Yes.
It would have
That's a good
his
point.
image. This is not the computer of the 24th century.
Mhm.
So I think it's minor. I mean, in an episode that's this solid, that's a minor quibble. But I feel like this season has been a series so far of minor quibbles.
Yes, I'll agree with that. Yep, that's a good way to put it. And minor enough to overlook in most situations.
Same.
Yeah.
I don't think that, them borrowing so liberally from Elementary Dear Data is, a showstopper. I just wish it was a little more original or unique.
It is not as I'm not as critical of it as I was when I first watched this episode. And that reveal came out of what was going on. I'll say I liked we've talked about it, that they've been borrowing from other genres and other parts of Star Trek a lot. I mentioned it at the top of the show. The thing that I loved the most about the borrowing of things for this episode is the Bride of Chaotica vibe in color, with all of the ridiculous alien in the view screen, like you said, and in the end credits with the
Yeah.
you can see the puppet strings and stuff like that. I thought that was hysterical. I loved every moment of it, because we've seen all of the parody shows, Saturday Night Live skits of these Star Trek series and stuff like that. All of these ridiculously cheap looking sets and everything like that. It really worked for what they were doing with the beginning of this and throughout, and then at the end with the end credits, which I just thought were hysterical. I love them.
Of the, appearances of the regular cast as those avatars, which one was your favorite?
Anson.
Yeah,
He was
hands down.
He was so great. I mean, he just those glasses. It took me a second to realize it was Anson. I think the first time that he walked on set, I think I'm like, oh God, that's Anson. I thought it was great. He had everything down perfectly with what he was doing with that character. I mean, he had the beer belly, like the bigger belly, like added on, and the jacket, and the always having the drink, those glasses and the hair, all those things. What is it with Anson Mount and the hair on Strange New Worlds? No matter what it is, it always looks pretty awesome.
Just once I want this dude to have a normal haircut.
I don't think we're going to get that in 4.5 Vulcans.
No, I think it's going to take Pike's Peak to a whole new level, if you will. So if number one is Lucy, then obviously Anson is Gene Roddenberry.
Yes.
He even does a very passable imitation of Gene Roddenberry down to the voice for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard Gene's voice plenty of times. I'm sure every fan has. I've seen Gene Roddenberry and I've spoken to him in person. And I immediately got the Gene vibe. And I'm so glad that Anson leaned into it. He totally looks like a cross between Isaac Asimov and 70s Gene. And I tell you, man, I am here for it.
Yeah. That just goes to show you the brilliance of his acting abilities. He's able to really pull it off in a very positive way. That's not satire. That's not poking fun. I don't think in any way what he did with that character, because we talked about what Wesley is doing with the captain impersonation. I thought it really worked well, and it's funny because if I remember correctly, I think I read somewhere recently that Frakes wanted it to be the Roddenberry, the Lucille Ball, all of these Hollywood people from back in the day to be kind of referenced a bit in this episode, and I think they were able to do it without bonking on the head. And everybody that I've seen or listened to or seen online has enjoyed what was done with it.
And Willow brings up a great point. The cosplay that we saw in Vegas, hard to believe it was a month ago, by the way.
Yeah.
Of the people, portraying both the La'an and the Pike character was fantastic.
The week it came out.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do they do this? And kudos to those fans. I mean, they've probably been, waiting for this. It's probably been circled on their calendar, kind of like, an NFL game or whatever. Yeah. And it was nothing short of awesome. My other favorite avatar in this episode probably has to be Celia Rose Gooding as the agent. She is so completely different from Uhura. I mean, they all are, but to a point where I actually believe her is this sort of 1960s, 1970s agent to some, television actors on a low budget science fiction series.
Yeah.
And her frustration of just trying to get a damn light the entire episode to me was just hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it screamed the 60s and 70s to me.
I've grown to appreciate all of the things that Celia has done in this role. She took on a huge responsibility when she signed on to play Uhura.
Yeah.
And I really feel that we've been able to get from her parts of this character that we had no knowledge of, and it's all worked. And that's due to her portrayal of the character. I mean, you can write stuff great, but if you have an actor who can't bring it across in a way that's believable, then it's just a waste of time. It's believable with her. Everything from the good and all the way down to the stuff that scares her and is bad with what's happened in her life. All very, very great work done by her.
The only thing I think was missing from the characterization she was given is I feel like Joni Gloss would have brought in a piano player to her house and sang songs. Because I feel like she's that, sort of tunnel visioned on herself. And that would have been perfect for Celia, because Celia, of course, has this golden, angelic voice.
Absolutely.
And I think it would have been a great opportunity to let that shine yet again. Because I mean, when you have that talent on your bench, eventually you got to bring it in to close, right? I think that would have been a neat aspect of the character. I think it would have brought a, sort of a 70s, 60s, 70s party at the agent's house kind of vibe to it. And then the murder happens. In my rewrite in my brain, that's kind of what went on.
You know who I could see in this holodeck episode sitting on a couch, drinking a drink with his ascot, just kind of sitting there, is Champion.
I was going to say, you're going to say John Champion.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see him doing that.
The problem is that he probably would have been murdered first.
Oh, that means that I would have been in the show too, because I probably would have one that killed him.
All right, let's pause here. We're going to take a brief capitalism break, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, because we love FanSets and we love everybody there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Trek Geek shop. But stay right there. We'll be right back with more of a Space Adventure Hour in just a second. Dan, of course, it wouldn't be a Thursday night and Trek Geeks and Thursday Night Geeks without thanking our presenting sponsor, our family, our brothers, our sisters at FanSets for being with us for almost a full decade and sponsoring, Trek Geeks from the time they got started. We wouldn't be where we are without them today, and we're grateful for their support each and every episode.
Absolutely. Every day, we're so thankful for not only their partnership with us, but like you said, for their friendship. They are family. We love them to death. We're happy to have them as our sponsor. And we love announcing newest pins available over at fansets.com every week. And tonight is no exception. You've got some available right now at fansets.com, including the latest Strange New Worlds micro crew pin. It is the lovely and talented Uhura right there. Also available is the latest from the Dedication Plaque series. It's the good old NX01 Enterprise with Archer's Prize Beagle. It's on there somewhere also. That's always good to see. And I got to say, this one is really cool, man. I'm wearing it right now, as you
Oh
can
yeah,
see.
I didn't notice that.
It is the United Federation of Planets Security Council badge from Star Trek 4. It's available in both pin and magnet form. And the really cool thing about this is it's on a hinge. You can see it right at the bottom of that picture that Bill was just showing. It's on a hinge, so the bottom part of this actually moves. It and it can actually come off, so you can remove it. Kind of neat. Never seen FanSets do something like that, so kind of cool. And it's big, as you can see. This is a big pin, and it's very sturdy. The magnet's very strong, as they always are. Check them out right now, and make sure you put them all in your cart over there at fansets.com.
I figured that pin was kind of a deep cut, not as deep as all the future imperfect com badges, but it makes a brief appearance in Star Trek 4, and yet this is one of the most complicated Fansets pins they've ever produced. A lot of detail work went into this to get the mechanics of it right, and to hear them tell us about it in Vegas, I was like, really? For something that was on screen for maybe 20 seconds total in the whole movie? They're like, yep. But that's what Fansets does.
That's what they do.
They take these things that we see in Star Trek and they bring them into the real world in not only a way that makes sense, but in a way you can actually wear. And that's what I love about it.
There you go. It's like the Borg Slayer Delta that was never actually even worn. It was only seen in a painting in Picard, and they made it a pin or a Delta. So yeah, fantastic job by Fansets.
Absolutely. So of course, get the Uhura micro crew pin, get that NX01 dedication plaque, and get that UFP pin. In fact, get it in both pin and magnet form because you're going to want to collect both.
There you go.
Get them all in your cart, because when you get more than $30 in your cart, Dan, you do get free shipping, but you're also going to get 10% off your order by using the special discount code TrekGeeks, which you see right there on your screen. That's TrekGeeks, all capital letters, no spaces, 10% off. And, Dan, more than $30 free shipping in the US, you cannot beat that deal.
You can't. It's a fantastic deal. It's from a fantastic group of people. Fansets. Our pins have character, and we thank our friends at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Thursday Night Geeks.
Dan, of course, new launches on the Trek Geek shop this month.
Nice.
All of our Vegas shirts are now on the store, including our Live Loud and Prosper t-shirt, that sort of tricolor LLAP emoji. There's the OG roll call shirt, which has the TOS crew. By the way, did you know it doesn't have chapel?
Why, Bill? She's been there from the beginning.
All right, so I think we told this story when we talked about Vegas, but in Vegas, for those of you who didn't see it, there was this guy from one of the other booths who saw the shirt and goes, "That's wrong," and that's this shirt right here, the Kirk and Spock and Bones and Uhura and Scotty and Sulu and Chekhov and the Enterprise. I said, "What do you mean it's wrong?" It's like, it doesn't have chapel. Like, she wasn't a regular cast member. She was there from the beginning. Well, great. She was, but when they did the movies, it was these 7 and the ship. She's in the movies. All right, yeah, she's in 1 and she's in 4, dude. For like a half a second.
That was funny.
But apparently I was wrong. So there's that, and there's also the Boldigo Retro, which is
that was a big
one
one.
of being a favorite of a lot of folks.
Yeah.
It was the one I actually thought would not sell out, and I think it was the first to sell out. So, and I've also added there's coffee in that nebula, which is kind of one of my new favorites. Nice. So I was kind of playing around and did that. So all these shirts available in the Trek Geek shop right now. There's a sale going on as we speak for another 147 hours, as you'll see here. to celebrate the launch of those new designs, but you can get them for yourselves at trekgeekshop.com. And
Love
with
it.
that, we will be right back to talk a little more Space Adventure Hour. So stay right there. I've received an instant correction from Garcia that Chapel is in 3, not 4 when the ship comes in. I thought that was Rand,
I
Garcia.
thought it was Rand as well. I think it was Rand. Yeah.
I think he says he's an ass in the IFB.
Yes.
So
Yep.
we've automatically and instantly corrected the corrector. So our streak is
love that.
safe.
Like it.
Just for that, he gets a 1 second flash on screen. There's Garcia. Hey, Garcia.
That was the
live.
best ever. That was good.
He does live.
He looked like that alien in the view screen at the beginning of the episode.
He really did.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's briefly in the scene where they have their court martial in the gallery, I think.
At the end, I believe.
So suck on that, Garcia. One of the more fun aspects of this episode, and I wasn't sure how I would feel about this, was the Scotty factor.
Oh yeah,
that poor dude.
I got something to say about that after your comments about it.
He is just keeping it together.
Yeah.
And barely so. I mean, it looks like it's cobbled together with spit and baling wire. It looks like it's probably his original miracle to some extent. But I thought it was great fun. Even the way he was able to inject himself into the holodeck, which I
that
thought
blew me
was,
away how that happened.
Yeah.
So he put himself into the holodeck. So somebody was watching a film that he put himself into the film. That is like mind blowing. I can't wrap my head around that type of stuff, but it was very, very cool. I love what they are doing with Scotty, because when we first met him, he is not the Scotty we know and appreciate as the miracle worker. And they're slowly making him so that he is going to be. I don't know if this is a criticism or just a little or you're going to say, no, that's totally wrong, Dan, you're stupid, which is probably what you're going to say, whether I'm right or not, because it's just you. But to me, him having to deal with all the things that were going on with the computer is not the chief. Well, he's not chief engineer.
He's not.
She's on shore leave. So that would, this is kind of a weird way to put it. I'm going to put it in the most simplistic form that I can. The issues that were happening on the holodeck should have gone to like the IT team and not like the chief engineer who's, ships engines and this, that, and the other thing. I love what he did. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was great, but I'm like, I think that would be somebody else should be handling this type of issue. Don't you? Now, you can argue that, Geordi had to deal with the computer issues all the time on the Enterprise D and this, that, and the other thing, but that's just something that popped into my head.
Well, I mean, technically he is a junior officer. He's not like, lower decks junior, but he's also not the chief engineer. And honestly, maybe he is the best person to deal with this. We don't know. Yeah. TOS really never kind of gives us that insight, because Spock is always the equal of the computer, right?
True.
It's Spock who figures out that the computer, that he's beating the computer at chess and he shouldn't be able to do that. It's Spock who logics the computer some of the time, or Kirk when he goes off on these, blah, blah, blah. So I think it had to be Scotty. And actually, Helen is telegraphing exactly what I'm thinking. Helen says, Spock usually handles computer issues, and we didn't see Spock on the bridge because it would have ruined the #Vulcan plot twist. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. I think in that sense, it obviously couldn't be Spock. It couldn't be Uhura. It obviously couldn't be La'an.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to be like it's number one's wheelhouse. We had no Pelia, so it kind of had to be Scotty. I
got to say, I love the set that he was in, doing all of this stuff and running around and looking at all the various monitors. Let me ask you this. Does that set that he was in, did that give you any Kelvin Universe Enterprise vibes? Because it did to me. I don't know if it was just the lighting or what. And that's not a criticism. I thought it really looked neat, but I did get that kind of vibe a little bit on it.
It didn't for me. I felt like at first they had redressed something else. It almost looked like a redress of the bridge in a sense, but it's obviously not.
Yeah.
It looks like they did really build a new set for it, but I the whole circular nature of the room, with sort of those insets that almost look like, posts or pillars of
Yeah.
sorts. It's enough to be different in design. I would like to have seen a science lab, something like that on the original TOS Enterprise. But I mean, I think we talked about before, we think that the ship is going to get reconfigured in a major way by the end of season 5 of Strange New Worlds.
What you just said made me think of something. Wasn't there, was it the computer core in Discovery where Michael battled, oh, what was her name? The green woman.
Osira.
Osira. Was it the computer core? Because it kind of had I think it had a couple of those men where she got sucked into the computer. Remember that weird?
Yeah, the organic
sucked into the organic matter or whatever
matter,
it was
or
called.
the programmable
yeah,
matter. Sorry.
there you go. I don't know. That made me think of it when you started talking about that. It made me think of that as well. But
You mean the programmable matter in the computer core, which is at the end of this TARDIS-like turbo lift shaft, which seems to stretch on ad infinitum. That would allows for multiple fight scenes and people to fall stories to their death.
Yes.
That scene?
I think so. That, or it was where the Emperor got thrown in by Darth Vader. One or the other. I can't remember.
The one thing I will say about Strange New Worlds is that they're really respectful of how the space is supposed to work. Like they got the turbo lift shafts down in short treks for Strange New Worlds, right? When in the
when they were
the Q&A,
stuck in there. Yep.
Q&A with number 1 and Spock, and they start singing Gilbert and Sullivan, which, by the way, we'll probably do someday on the show. Dan's like, I don't know Gilbert and Sullivan. Fret not, my friend, because I do, and in a big
good
way.
Ice cream, I'll tell you that.
What? No, that's Ben and Jerry.
Sorry.
What?
I finally got him to stop talking.
I think everybody watching can tell how amused you are with yourself when you start laughing and it's silent to start with. All we can hear you is sounding like
I'm so laughing at you.
You get this high pitched
your reaction.
You get this high pitched squeal, which makes you sound like a cartoon character. You're cracking yourself up, and it kills me.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So going back to the earlier point you made about Spock, I too was fooled that it wasn't actual Spock. I meant to mention this earlier. I do like that there's the passing mention to Spock's relative being Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. For years, that's been bandied about with fans. Did he mean Sherlock Holmes or did he mean Doyle? It's like, no, he means Doyle.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But I'm still a little annoyed by it. I really am.
I can tell, and that's okay. I know that there are a lot of people out there who have been annoyed by it and get the old "can't you come up with anything original" line. But as you said, I was one of those people like, really? But then it all kind of fell into place and kind of worked for me, so it wasn't as big an issue for me.
Yeah. There's a lot of things here that happen in this episode that are really just sort of shortcuts to some extent. Remember last week, Ortegas didn't really have a great week.
No, not at all.
She was, forced to report to the warrant officer for, a chain of command training, I believe it was. But this week she's back on the bridge, and that seems like a little bit of a cop-out to me. I get having her in the episode. I mean, Melissa Navi is fantastic. I love her. I love Ortegas. But they couldn't have brought in, I don't know, Ensign Ricky for an episode and put him behind the helm, or whatever.
It was kind of like it was kind of a little Worf spine moment.
Yeah,
I could be wrong because I don't know what's happening. I do know that this week's episode is an Ortegas episode, so I don't know if there's still trauma and everything going on with her. But I can see where you're coming from with what you're saying.
Yeah, it seemed to me that, on the heels of such a weighty episode for that character, and that the gross insubordination that Ortegas engages in, and gets called out by, rightfully so, by number 1 in a weird wig. I think that it's out of place for her to almost be on the bridge. I would think she would almost be out of the duty rotation for the helm
for a while.
now. No, we don't know the how much time has gone by, and that's fine. But I just think it's awfully the excuse that number one gives just doesn't match for me. Well, everybody's tired. We're all pulling double shifts or whatever it is. Like, yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
She's being punished.
Right.
That's what happens.
Right. I mean, Garavik got sent to his quarters in TOS for, being, just I forget what it even was at this point. But yeah, so you think that she would be off duty for a little while?
Yeah, or at least going through some some stuff. Chris brings up a great point. Gross insubordination or not, when you need your best, you get the best. Did
And
we
that's
need
why
the
we never call Mumph.
wow?
Oh, bang! Sorry, buddy. I'm just kidding. You know I am.
Wow!
Get my
I didn't
coffee.
even do that. Yeah, I would agree that when it's hitting the fan, it's like Jellicoe going to Riker saying, "Will you pilot the shuttlecraft?" when Riker's being a baby. But I don't know that we necessarily needed the best
What
pilot in the fleet.
what emergency was happening? I mean, I know
Yeah.
that an emergency did end up happening during the episode, but yeah.
Number one's a pretty good pilot. So is Pike.
Yep, absolutely.
Just throwing that out there. So, um, one of the takeaways we get from this episode. Oh, yeah, another great point. Helen always brings their A game. Sorry. When it comes to these discussions and these comments, Tom Paris, Star Trek Voyager, gets demoted and thrown in the brig for 30 days. Comes out and still the helmsman.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yep.
I sit corrected.
Helen's on top of their game. That is for sure.
Garcia actually entering the fray in comments. Seems that Chris Mumphrey is the only person who gets hassled more than me. LOL. Who gave Garcia access to comments?
And who cares?
Fair.
No, I'm just kidding, buddy. Mumphrey is better than you.
I think that this episode, I think it does the job it set out to do. It creates a fun little romp. It creates a way to, for our actors who are the regulars in the show to sort of step out of the box as their characters, which they've been able to do now every season.
Yeah.
And I do really enjoy that. I always like it when our main characters can do something really different in Star Trek. And this is no exception. I feel like every series has done it. And I think Strange New World so far has done it the most successfully of all the shows.
Let me ask you this, because we've talked about it before. There's some deep stuff that has been happening at the beginning of the season. You have the whole Gorn thing, what's going on with Ortegas, lots of weird stuff happening. We've seen before where there's, intense episodes, and then there's an episode, I don't want to call it a filler episode because it's not filler. It's much more laid back. It's much more relaxed. It's fun. I have not seen anything from episode 4 yet. Do you think that this is one of those episodes? Or just so happens to be it was what it was when it was, and it was not planned that way?
I think it was probably put this way to sort of downshift a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not by any means a criticism, certainly. I think that enough happens in this episode to sort of prepare us for the back half.
Mm-hmm.
You figure after this one is Through the Lens of Time, which is it's a heady sci-fi episode. There's a lot that goes on next week. And there's a lot of serious stuff next week. So Willow has the appropriate phrase. This week is a palate cleanser, really.
Okay.
But I know that, I'm not going to ruin anything about the episode that dropped today, Terrarium, but it is also a very weighty and heavy episode.
Okay.
It is outstanding. When we talk about this, I'm going to have a lot to say. But it's an episode written by Alan McElroy, who wrote some of our favorite later episodes of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Who also has a Discovering Trek t-shirt, but that's another story for another.
That's awesome.
But I think that this one is placed probably perfectly in the schedule. Having seen the first 9 and not putting anything at risk for our discussion after this one, I think this one is placed appropriately. I think anywhere else it might have seemed out of place.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. So let's unless you have something else you want to talk about first, let's talk about something that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode.
Let's do it.
Which we've talked about before, and that's how they are focusing on romances a lot. these days in Star Trek. Of course, we had Chapel Spock. We've got Pike's relationship, and now Spock doesn't seem to even remember who Chapel is, and off to dancing with the lovely security officer. And at the end, I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? You suck, Ethan Peck, was my first thought. And second is, where's this going to go now? Is this what's going to push him to finally become the Spock that we were? I mean, it just every week it's another thing, and I'm just wondering what's going on with it. I mean, and I'll tell you what, I don't want to sound negative in any way towards a character or an actor. I'm way more on board with Spock La'an than I am with Spock Chapel. That's just me. Spawn. Or Lock.
I'm actually kind of surprised at that, simply just because, I mean, I think that Chapel and Spock was a natural exploration based on Chapel's feelings in TOS.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yep.
And I think that there was the possibility for it to go somewhere in the years before TOS was actually a thing, for whenever they were on that ship. I kind of liked some of that exploration, but I felt like there was too much of a payoff. I feel like, they rushed it a little too quickly. Let's get these guys in a relationship now. I don't think they needed to. I think they could have kept that tension. I don't want to say like moonlighting ish, like will they, won't they? But I think they could have done enough to sort of keep that vibe of TOS, maybe with some gray area, but not an outright relationship. Because I think that ultimately, from my perspective, I think that's a mistake.
And let me jump in on that real quick, because I've thought about this recently when thinking about the whole Spock romance thing on Strange New Worlds. Back in the day, watching TOS, I never once thought that they ever had a relationship of any kind. I always just thought that Chapel was the type of woman who fell in love with someone that she worked with and knew because they're around all the time, but there was nothing ever there. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but that's one of the things. If there's something that I do like about what they've done with Spock's romance with Chapel during Strange New Worlds, is we get to see that there was something there, even if they may have overdone it a little bit.
Well, I think that's part of the whole 60s vibe, right? The roles of women in television and in parts back then were largely subservient, to be honest. Yeah, there were some strong female characters, but they didn't exist on Star Trek. Right. Most of them existed as caregivers or as support personnel. They answered phones, or they were nurses, or they served the captain. So I don't think that there would have necessarily been an outright overly spoken about relationship between Chapel and Spock in TOS. I think it's utterly believable in Strange New Worlds that there was something at one point when they were younger, before they either work together again or continue to work together with Captain Kirk in command of the vessel. So it would also explain a lot of why Christine has this longing for no reason. In the 60s, it seems like it's out of place, and like she's just being and I please know I'm describing this in 60s terms, not my terms, a typical woman.
Yeah.
Because, that's kind of what was expected of some of the female roles back then. Yeah. And I think that this gives a lot more structure and context and believability to Chapel. I understand now why she makes plomeek soup for Spock in Amok Time. I understand why she gets sad when Spock is affected by things, because she has this connection, and I think it's built out believably. Yeah. But for them to rush them right into a relationship when he's already friggin' engaged.
Yeah. So let me make sure I get this right. Engaged to T'Pring, has a relationship with Chapel, breaks up with Chapel, still engaged to T'Pring, and now is starting something with La'an. This guy is a player.
Young hot Spock is a player. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Garcia with more commentary. We've got to take his keyboard away.
Get his keyboard away from him.
Penelope says later on, when he's first officer, that would be considered fraternization, so the disconnection makes sense for professionals. But that's absolutely true. That's a great point from our resident.
You know what? I'm thinking Bonnie jumped in and typed that out, because Garcia is not that bright.
That's true. He's not. Mrs. Garcia, much brighter. Let's just say that. Um, yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. It also, makes sense that Spock is older. I mean,
Mhm.
he's better with logic. He's better with sort of segregating that human half of his. He does. He's more effective at sort of that bifurcation than he is at
Yeah.
this point as a lieutenant. So, the one takeaway from this is Scotty's recommendation on the holodeck. Do you remember what it
Yeah.
was?
Was he the one that said it should not be put in place until the bugs are taken care of? I don't recall off the top of my head.
He recommends that holodecks have their own server room and power source,
Oh,
elements that we know are part of holodecks in the future, and in
yes. Yeah.
including the one on Voyager is noted in parallax, according to the TrekNews.net coverage of the episode.
That's pretty funny.
Um, I appreciate that they tied that off in canon. That they had enough sense to go, okay, there have to be recommendations for the future. This doesn't work now. Why? Let's shoot it around the room. What do you got?
Yeah.
Needs its own server room. Bingo. Let's do it. Put it in the script.
Took 85 years to do it. Well, who knows how, but they did it.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious as now when they were introduced. We know it was sometime just before TNG.
Yeah.
Why did it take 85 years?
Yeah.
And the room looks the same.
It looks the same. Must be a big server room. It must be bigger than the computer core of the whole ship.
The room looks the Enterprise doesn't look the same, but the holodeck looks
Mhm.
like it does 85 years in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. Like right now, like our screen looks.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Amazing.
we wanted to do a clear homage to the whole holodeck
Oh,
thing. So,
that's true.
um,
Absolutely.
so
Let me ask
Dan,
you
yeah, go ahead.
before we wrap up. Do you now you without knowing what you know, if you were only to see episode 4 and have not seen it, do you think this La'an relationship is going to go anywhere?
Wow, I think it has to go somewhere because at some point it has to end.
Mhm.
I think they'll do something with it. I don't know if it'll be as involved as um, Chapel and Spock,
Yeah. Yep.
but I do think there has to be some exploration there.
Okay.
If for no other reason, then it adds a great deal more context to La'an, who came on board the ship very structured, very closed off,
Mhm.
very insulated from the people around her. And we've seen now
Yep.
over the first 2 seasons and now almost halfway through the third, that guard has come down.
A
She's
lot.
developed relationships.
Yeah.
She's developed connections. She's able to be more herself. And that makes you wonder, well, what does that truly involve? I think she has to wonder what that truly involves
Mm.
because I don't think she's ever really been able to explore that. So I think she'll get to explore that humanity. And honestly, it kind of makes Spock the perfect foil for that, in my
Okay.
opinion.
All right. It'll be interesting to see if they keep building on it over the next few weeks.
What do you think?
I think that they are going to have to explore it a little bit because they've started it. They're not just going to stop it now. So I don't want to say they box themselves into a corner,
Yeah.
but they're going to have to do something because, or maybe they always knew that they were going to do something. But yes, I think there will be some more to it. I
Okay.
don't think it's going to be as it's kind of hard. I'm going to step back from that. I was going to say I don't think it's going to be as big a romance for Spock as with Christine, but if it's what causes him to change to the Spock that we know in not too many years from now, in terms of where they are on Stardate, something bad's going to have to happen with her or their relationship or something. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Dan, as we look to wrap up this week's episode of Thursday Night Geeks, presented by FanSets, we want to come back to the question we posed at the beginning of the episode and see
Mhm.
if anybody has some input.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the real world, as we watch this, September 11th, 2025 will be the third season finale of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and that begs the question: do you think the season finale will be a cliffhanger? I have not seen the finale. You have not seen the finale. Um, we know that the season 2 cliffhanger took almost 2 full years to resolve based
Yeah.
on strikes and production schedules and you have what have you. And we didn't think it was effective necessarily as a cliffhanger. Do you think we're going to have see one next week?
I think we are. I think we are going to see one for two reasons. I think that cliffhangers in Star Trek, for the most part, work. I think that because they are filming season 4, or did they already wrap? I forget if they even wrapped already, but they've been filming it. It's not going to take as long, and I think that makes for a better cliffhanger conclusion than having to wait 2 years. So I'm thinking they will, and I'm hoping that they will.
Okay. I'm going to go on the record as saying no, I don't think there's going to be a cliffhanger. I think that, things being what they are, I think they've done it once. I think that they resolved it okay, but it's kind of hard to achieve that. I mean, you remember some of the Voyager cliffhangers were kind of
Yeah,
uneventful.
lackluster.
Yeah, they were lacking, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's true of even some of the later TNG cliffhangers. Time's Arrow didn't strike me as a cliffhanger. It was just a 2-part episode.
And
Uh,
unfortunately, when you're rating anything up to best of both worlds, you're just not
yeah,
going to you're just not going to hit it. So
that's really it. So, Chris thinks cliffhanger. I absolutely hope so. Helen says, I don't think it will be a cliffhanger. They took a shot at a cliffhanger last season. I don't think they'll do it again. I'm kind of in that camp. Brad says, I think they'll do a small cliffhanger similar to episode 1, but not as big as season 2. I think that's actually an interesting take, Brad.
I like
I hadn't
that.
thought about that.
I like that one.
Helen comes back to say, I hope they wrap up the Battelle storyline and put her in a rubber suit in episode 10. Yes.
I'm on board that one.
Yes,
I like
yes,
that.
yes. I am all on board for that. And Garcia chiming in because he hasn't even seen this week's episode. When you only have 10 episodes per season, cliffhangers chew up a season. That's not incorrect. I agree with that, actually.
Yep.
I think it's better to just do 10 solid stories than to try to tie one of them back to the season before.
Now, I will say this also. If it's not a cliffhanger, fine. But for me, the idea of a season finale just being an episode that ends is kind of a letdown. I think because we're used to the best of both worlds and other things that we've seen in Star Trek over the years as season enders. So I think that might be part of my reason why I'm hoping that they do one.
Well, next week, Dan, we're going to talk about episode 5 of the current season of Strange New Worlds, called Through the Lens of Time. Nurse Chapel and Dr. Corby's quest for human evolution leads them to ancient ruins on a planet outside Federation space, where they uncover a hidden structure and encounter a terrifying mystery involving a malevolent possession-type entity that targets the away team.
Dun,
now,
dun, dun.
At first listen, that sounds pretty amazing. And I can't wait to talk about it because that's going to be a great discussion next week. But until then, buddy, it looks like you and I are getting the heck out of here. We want to thank everybody for watching live. And of course, if you're watching this afterwards, please like, please subscribe, please comment and share with all your friends and even your mortal enemies, because we're sure they would enjoy this discussion too. For now, for Garcia in the control room, for Montgomery Ward underwear model Dan Davidson, and for myself, Bill Smith, this has been Thursday Night Geeks presented by FanSets. We hope you all have a great night, live long, and prosper.
See you next week, everybody.
Take care. Coconut.